Welcome to the Dawgs Table. Hosted by Craig Fountain and Jared Fatty Bates. Get access to special guests. Anyone can join the Dawgs Table. Find the link to join the show in the comments when we go live every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Periscope, and everywhere on the BIGPLAY network. Here's your hosts, Craig Fountain and Jared Fatty Bates.
I can't yell because the wife will yell at me, but we are live here on a very, very special episode of the Dawgs Table. I am that fat guy, Jared Fatty Bates. He is the ginger that runs the show, Craig, Mr. Ginger Fountain, and welcome to the Dawgs Table.
We are the Dawgs Table. If this is your first time joining, again, I'm Craig Fountain, and we are a Cleveland Browns roundtable discussion show, especially if you're new on Twitter. We're kind of like Twitter Spaces, but a video version. We've been around for quite a while now, and normally we post a link in the comments to join the show. We may do that later on, but we have a special guest today. So we may just limit today to comments, which we can display and address just like this. Red Light, thanks for joining the show. Norman, thanks for joining the show. And as always, we are presented to you by Labatt Blue and Remax Edge Realty, the JC Group. You can find us everywhere you find Big Play. We appreciate you tuning in. It is, like Jared said, an exciting episode. We are going to be joined shortly by attorney Blake Weiner, and we're going to discuss the Browns and Deshaun Watson legal matters, and he's going to give us some insight that not everybody can give. It's going to be a great time. We're going to dive in. We're going to dissect it. Red Lake says, be gentle. It isn't my first time. Ben, thanks for joining the show. We appreciate you tuning in. Everybody else that's watching, you can comment on Facebook and YouTube, and we can display the comments. On Twitter, we're going to try to keep an eye on it. We can't post those in the studio yet. We don't have that functionality, but we would love if you would comment on our live video. We'll do our best to address those as well. So, with that being said, we're going to get a couple of our segments out of the way so we can really dive into the Deshaun Watson stuff, talk to Blake, and we're gonna really, really have fun diving into that. So with that being said, let's go to our City Dogs of Cleveland Dog of the Week. Here we go. All right, our dog of the week. Every week during the regular season, we do an offensive and defensive dog of the week. It is the off season, so of course we don't have an offensive or defensive MVP, but what we do have is an adoptable dog with the City Dogs of Cleveland, friend of the show, and we support adopting some furry friends. So here's our dog of the week, and it is no stranger to our regulars. It is Lolo. She has yet to find a home. This is Lolo. And you can get a hold of City Dogs of Cleveland. I'll give you their contact information in just a moment. She's adoptable, and she is a fashionista love bug. This adorable lady loves exploring on walks and is attentive and very treat motivated. She loves toys, but also has an independent side. She enjoys the company of other social dogs, but if you have cats, maybe not the best fit. She needs surgery to correct problems with her kneecaps. All those costs are covered. You don't have to worry about those. They're covered by friends of City Dogs of Cleveland. She just needs a special adopter and a home to rest and recover. There's another photo of Lolo. And she recently spent a few days with a volunteer for a sleepover, so they could kind of give us some notes on how she behaved. And it was good house manners, likely housebroken, good in the crate, great in the car. And here is the contact information on your screen. If you're listening, it's at City Dogs CLE and at City Dogs Cleveland on Facebook. City Dogs CLE is Twitter. I'm sorry. 216-664-3476. And as always, if you want help getting a hold of them, reach out to Jared, reach out to myself, reach out to the show's social accounts. We will personally connect you with them and try to get Lolo adopted. So we can help you arrange a visit to find out if she is your forever home. Justin, thanks for joining the show. We got Craig Foster in the comments. Norman, good to see you. And there's one down here I can't see. Red leg. There you go. All right. We got the dog of the week. We got one more segment to do, and it's going to parlay into, actually, you know what? Let's introduce our special guest, because this is all relevant. Our weekly Twitter poll is relevant. I'm going to bring in here attorney Blake Weiner. How's it going, Blake? Thanks for joining the show.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're excited to talk to you and kind of delve into some of the specifics of the Deshaun Watson case, and really kind of confirm or debunk some of what the Twitter and Facebook lawyers are saying, and the things we're seeing and hearing by somebody that's actually, in fact, an attorney. And real quick, before we get into our weekly Twitter poll, can you go ahead and just maybe give us an overview of who you are? Tell us about yourself, maybe your qualifications.
Yeah, sure. So I graduated from Georgetown Law School. After I graduated, I clerked in federal court in the Southern District of in the Southern District of West Virginia for a year. After clerking in federal court, I worked at a prosecutor's office in a major city for over a year. And then I worked in civil litigation, in which I worked and practiced in both federal court and state court.
Outstanding. So realistically, you have a lot of experience with cases like this. You've both been on a prosecution side, you've been on a civil litigation side. So you have experience with both sides of what Deshaun Watson's dealing with. So it gives you a unique perspective inside the process, inside how things work, the questions to ask, what we can take away, what maybe we can't take away that, you know, there's just so much information, a lot to dive into, and we tend to take the information and run with it. So we appreciate you coming on the show. We're excited to hear your perspective, ask you some questions, get some answers, get some direction on how we feel about certain things. But we're going to go real quick to our weekly Twitter poll, because it has to do with Deshaun Watson. So here we go. Here is our weekly Twitter poll. All right. So the big event over the past week was Friday, the Deshaun Watson press conferences. And I can't wait to get your opinion on those, Blake. But real quick, let's introduce the Twitter poll for those of you that are on Facebook and watching on there, and on YouTube, where we don't have poll functionality. Feel free to make a Twitter account just to vote for us. Here's the Twitter poll of the week. How would you grade the Browns' Deshaun Watson press conferences on Friday? We have a grading school scale here: A, B, C, or D/F. Fatty, let me go to you real quick. How would you grade the press conferences? And we'll each give them a grade, and then we'll maybe kind of guess what the poll results are, and then we'll reveal those results. What do you think, Fatty?
After watching the press conference, there are still some questions that I would like answered. I would love to see Jimmy and D at this press conference too. Like I said on the Voice of the Land on Sunday with our boys Kevin and Jay and Peter and all those guys, that, this is probably one of the biggest trades in NFL history. And especially for a franchise quarterback, and with all the, I wouldn't say baggage, but everything that kind of comes with that trade, I was expecting more out of this press conference. Yes, the answers are going to be what the answers are. They're not going to give us anything they don't want to give us. The one factor that I didn't like out of the whole thing was they decided in November to start pursuing this and hiring private investigators and all that stuff. But, honestly, I would give it, it's a press conference. There wasn't anything glaring that we really didn't know about at first. So, I give it a C, maybe a B minus. because, of course, Andrew Berry is going to be well spoken. Same with Stefanski. What I was kind of wanting to hear was more from Deshaun, more than anything else, and hearing him talk. Obviously, the PR team and the lawyers and everything else kind of did a really good job with him too, because he really didn't give up too much either. So that's where I was at with it.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and give my take, and then I'm interested to hear what Blake has to say. But my take is I agree with you that I think the press conference should have been scheduled in a way that Jimmy and Dee should attend. Maybe I'm old school. I mean, I'm only in my early 30s, but the way that I do things, if it's important, you show up in person. This is being sold to us as one of the most celebrated moments in potentially franchise history, a path to a brighter future. And we're addressing it because there's an elephant in the room that comes with it. And to me, not being there personally in the line of fire with your general manager and your coach from a leadership perspective, it's lacking. And also, I understand they were on a Zoom call, but I feel like they could have done a better job being present. Now, also, I feel like that the timing of the press conferences was pretty convenient for the Haslams. They got to engage with social media and stuff like that in between the press conferences. They were able to see what the negative responses were. Surely there was a team of people going, okay, this is what they're saying. Here's what they're doing. We need to respond to this. I feel like they were kind of force feeding information to combat some of the negative responses into their answers, and they weren't necessarily all the time relevant. So many words. I'm struggling to get that out, but I'm going to give it a C. And the reason is Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski. I mean, let's be honest. They're high class. They're classy. They know they're Ivy League. They know what they're doing. They know what to say. At the end of the day, though, a whole lot of words were said, but it wasn't actually a whole lot of information. So they did their jobs. They did what they were supposed to do. Blake, what do you think?
So I'm going to give a complicated answer. I'm not just going to answer straight up, which is usually how I answer, which is very annoying. I'm going to grade it. It's sort of split it. I'm going to say from a Stefanski-Berry perspective on a curve. So I'm going to grade on a curve too, because this is not a normal press conference, right? On a Stefanski-Berry perspective on a curve, I'm going to give it an A-. I mean, they stuck to the point. I think you would struggle to find another NFL organization's front office and coach that are going to handle it that well. So I'll give it an A-. Deshaun Watson on a curve, a B-. Again, this is on a curve. If we're talking like just straight up, if I'm turning on the TV and watching the press
We're
conference,
considering the circumstances.
If I'm just watching a normal press conference, it's fucking terrible. But if I'm watching what I'm watching on the curve, that's what I would do.
All right. Outstanding. All right, so let's get into our results here. Jared, what do you think the voters chose? Do you think it was A, B, C, or D or F?
Depends on which voters. Is it our voters or is it just all voters?
All voters.
Oh boy. I'm gonna go probably majority B, C. I don't think there's too many A's in there, so I'm gonna go like B or C range. I'll go with B.
Blake, this is a little game we like to play. We like to guess the results. I already know the results, but what do you think? How do you think our voters voted?
In my experience with Browns fans, they're always very optimistic, a little overly optimistic. So I'm going to say they give it a B+.
All right, outstanding. So here we go. Here are the results. 22.2% of voters voted A. The winner, B. 37.1% of voters, C. 15.5%, D, or F. 25.3%. Personally, I was interested in the fact that it wasn't all A's or D's and F's, because everybody seems to be, it's such a divisive issue that everybody seems to be on polar opposite ends of the spectrum. I didn't expect it to be more towards the middle. So a little bit of surprise there. All right. So we're going to kind of get into go ahead, Fatty.
I am actually live on Twitter right now on the Dawgs Table.
Yes.
So if anybody wants to comment on Twitter, ask a question, I can read them as I go along. I put it out there that I'm there live watching that. And also, let's not forget that he is a lawyer, but he also is a Browns fan too. So we're going to actually have perspective as a Browns fan and a lawyer and how he feels also. So, sorry, Blake. I just wanted to put that out there.
No, thank you.
So,
all right. So, Blake, I just want to kind of get, as a Browns fan, as an attorney, we'll get into some more of the attorney stuff as we go on. But as a Browns fan, and from your personal perspective, when you heard the rumors that we were pursuing Deshaun Watson, what was your reaction and what were your thoughts at the time?
As a Browns fan?
Yeah.
As a Browns fan, I thought they're going to embarrass us. I thought they were going to embarrass themselves. I didn't think – I remember having a conversation with my dad about this. I said, he's like, they're looking at Deshaun Watson. I said, there's a 0% chance. I thought there was a 0% chance they would get him. And then when the Browns were the very first team that he eliminated, I said, of course. I thought they were the least likely. It's cold here. He doesn't want to be here. He doesn't want to be in the cold. He's from Atlanta. He likes that area. I didn't see it. I didn't see why this would be a very appealing situation for him. And then when I found out that they landed him, I was legitimately, I'm still in a weird sense of shock. I can't believe it actually happened. It was such a surreal situation, especially how we were told it wasn't going to happen. And then I'm on Twitter and I see a tweet about he's choosing the Browns. I thought it was a joke. Yeah.
So we initially thought we got to a point where it's 0% chance we're out of the running. Everybody's talking about what's happening now. Is it Derek Carr, Jimmy Garoppolo? Is it Marcus Mariota? Is it this or that? How are we going to reconcile with Baker? And oh shit, Baker's pissed. And now what are we going to do? We're on the hook for $18 million. Nobody has any leverage. The sky is falling. And then the announcement comes. So we find out that we get Deshaun Watson, and we all understand as a football player, Watson is clearly an upgrade over Baker Mayfield. That is not a knock on Baker Mayfield. But there's baggage that comes with it. So once you got over your initial excitement at the prospect of a player of that caliber joining the Cleveland Browns, when you started to weigh the baggage that was going to come with it, what were your thoughts there? Had you been following the case? Did you dive into the case? Where were you at?
Are you asking me from a moral perspective or in terms of how I was feeling about the baggage or a legal?
Maybe a little bit of a moral perspective, but also from the perspective that you're involved in situations like this. So for all, were you following the case prior to this?
Absolutely.
Okay. So you were following the case. From a moral perspective, were you concerned? If you want to answer that, you don't have to. And then what was your thoughts once you got over, hey, we have Deshaun Watson? What were your thoughts on where the case were at and what direction we were kind of heading there?
Yeah, so from a moral perspective, I don't mind answering. I took sort of I take a pretty black and white view of this. The way I looked at it is, and the way I approach just sports in general is, these are literally corporations. Just the fact that we're fans of a corporation itself, I think, is bizarre. But I just sort of put that aside and just let my emotions sort of take control. And I assume that there are awful players on every single team. And I assume that there are awful players currently on the Cleveland Browns that I would be disgusted if I knew the worst things that they were doing. I think I genuinely would be disgusted. And so I made a decision a long time ago that I don't change how I feel about the team based on who they have on it, because I kind of assume that I don't know anything about these guys. They could all be awful. I'm sure some of them are. I'm sure some of them are great guys. So from a moral perspective, I didn't care to battle too much with that. I was more just interested in, what's going to happen with this guy. And I should add this. Another thing that I should emphasize is what I do want and what I do care about from a moral perspective is I want there to be systems in place, both criminally, civilly, and through the NFL system, the NFL investigative system, to punish people in the NFL who do terrible things. So, for example, let's say the NFL did its investigation, came out and said, we've concluded Deshaun Watson did terrible things. He's suspended for 2 years. That wouldn't bother me. From a moral perspective, I would say good, because if you did an investigation, you concluded he did inappropriate things, then he should be punished for it. And then from a practical perspective of just what it means for the Browns, I was very concerned originally, practically speaking, from his legal perspective, because I didn't know where his cases stood as well as I do today. I didn't have as great of an understanding from where his cases stood criminally and civilly as much as I do today. And I actually expected the Browns' position to sort of be, yes, this guy has done bad things, but we're going to work on his rehabilitation. But it has almost taken a completely different route of he's claiming innocence and they're claiming they trust his character, essentially.
So one of the main things that's been talked about, and a stance that a lot of people have taken, it was no secret. I came on here last week, and if anybody follows my Twitter, my stance is pretty clear. It's, I can't really support him as a human being. It's one of those things where I just don't have enough information. Can he be, in my mind, proven innocent? I have where there's smoke, there's fire. I'm part of the whole, if there's 22, how are 22 lying? Things like that. But at the end of the day, I understand he's an upgrade to the quarterback. The Browns made it a football decision. It was a business decision. And I'm not one of those people that's going to like burn my Browns jerseys or like cancel season tickets or, not watch games anymore. I may not buy a Watson jersey, but I'm still going to root for the Browns. Right. So not an overly divisive stance from any point other than just saying, hey, like this feels kind of icky. I don't know if I can support just Deshaun Watson, but if we're looking at it, I can support my Browns. All right. So maybe that's just so that you have that information while we're having this conversation. Maybe that gives you some insight into some of the questions I'm asking or some of the opinions I have, things like that. And for those of you new viewers, you know where I stand. So after the press conference, what were some of your main takeaways from the press conference? Like, it was said that they didn't actually talk to, what was it? Was it the prosecutor? Was it the prosecutor they didn't talk to? And he said something to the effect of, none of the teams contacted me, knowing what I know they should have, but they did talk to the other side of the aisle, from what I understand. What's your commentary on that? Like, should they have talked to him? Should they not have? What were your takeaways?
So to clarify, it's my understanding, and I'd like to know if you guys can correct me or if you all think I'm correct here. It's my understanding that it's not about them talking to the prosecutors. It's about them, whether or not they talk to the plaintiffs, the individual victims, and that there are plaintiffs, or the plaintiff's attorney, who is Tony Busby, correct? So I think that was really what the issue was. And Busby said they didn't talk to me and they didn't talk to any of the plaintiffs. And didn't talk to the lawyer for plaintiffs. So I think that that was a hot topic. It really depends on whether or not they should have. Really depends on what your perspective is of what their goal should be. So if the Browns are running a church service and they are looking to hire a priest, and this is the priest they're looking to hire, should they contact specifically the individual plaintiffs? Absolutely. And if they do not, they are beyond reckless. It's malpractice not to do that. If you're a corporation vetting an employee, a potential employee, and trying to determine, does this person fit within our standard of character? Do you need to talk to the individual plaintiffs? I don't think so. And I think that there's a strong case that doing so could get messy. I mean, imagine if they talk to the plaintiffs, they see tears, they do further investigation, they determine they don't believe the plaintiffs. Tony Busby's on TV the next day saying, the Browns talked to my plaintiffs, they cried in front of them, and they still traded for Deshaun Watson. Shame on them. One thing I do want to say from a legal perspective, and I've talked about this previously, is this idea that Barry gave that they couldn't talk to the plaintiffs because it would be interfering with an investigation, to me is complete BS. Whether they are specifically talking about, a Texas statute of, interfering with an investigation, or if they mean, more not so technical about it. From my knowledge of the Texas code and my understanding of what it means to be interfering with investigation, there isn't an intent requirement to be liable for a crime of interfering with an investigation. obstruction of justice, if you will. You have to be able to prove the person that does it or an organization that does it has to be looking to interfere. You're just asking them questions. You're not interfering with anything any more than a journalist asking them. You're just trying to gather information. And in fact, they even prove that they say, well, our investigators did a lot of this questioning for us. Well, your investigators are just acting on your behalf. And your investigators certainly could have asked the lawyer. Asking a lawyer is not interfering with an investigation. So I do think that was basically a cop-out.
Okay. Are you going to? Well, no. We got Red Leg that asked the question. I think next I have my question out, but Red Leg asked, and I don't have my glasses on. You're going to have to read this stuff.
Yeah, when asked about if he planned to settle, the answer was that he wasn't planning to and that he was going to clear his name, quote unquote, as much as possible. Do you think this was intentional or a slip? Blake, what do you think?
Oh, I don't think that means anything. I mean, first of all, he looked pretty nervous in his press conference. I mean, he's just trying to say the right thing. He's trying to stick to whatever script he has pre-planned with the Browns. And I'm guessing the strategy in the script was, well, this is between him and his lawyer. You're innocent. You're innocent. You're going to clear your name. You're not going to settle. And I just think that's just, he's just adding color to his language. I don't read too much into that.
All right, Fatty, I know you have a question on hand here.
So through all this time, we have been hearing grand jury didn't find anything and they're not going to pursue charges. Another grand jury didn't find anything. They're not going to pursue charges. Now, my question is, that's just a grand jury. That's not a trial, right? So he can actually be brought back into that grand jury, or they find more evidence and can try him on that, correct?
That's correct. A grand jury, double jeopardy doesn't attach at the grand jury stage. It attaches afterward. So you could have, in theory, and that's the key, it's about separating what's true in theory and what's true in practice. In theory, you could have the same prosecutors come up with the same exact evidence every single day to the same grand jury and say, how about Tuesday? How about Wednesday? How about Thursday? How about today? And they could say, no, 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 no. They could do that as long as they want. So it's true he's not in the clear. Realistically, in practice, it's over for those cases. Because remember, there's still, I guess, 12 now that the women didn't file criminal complaints. And so in practice, those are completely out in the open. I'm not sure why those women haven't pursued complaints. Maybe the statute of limitations has applied. I don't know. But they could always maybe decide to file complaints, assuming the statute of limitations hasn't finished. And like you said, there could be new evidence in these other cases where the grand jury didn't indict. But that is incredibly unlikely. This is not a case with DNA or complex evidence that could be found or searched for. It seems like all the evidence would be had already.
But okay.
All right, so real quick, Fatty, before I forget, because I'm ADD. I'm not trying to steal your thunder here. I need to ask this. I'm either going to open a door here or I'm going to slam one shut. Is there any reason the prosecution at that stage or this stage would not want an indictment yet?
You mean didn't want an indictment right now and hope to maybe get one in the future?
Yes. Because realistically, and I was actually listening to you talk, and I don't remember where it was, if it was on another podcast or in Twitter Spaces or where it was, or maybe I was reading some of your tweets. You talked about the whole quote unquote, anybody can indict a ham sandwich, right? That's the saying. So right. If somebody doesn't get indicted, is that something that could possibly say that like they're not ready or they don't want to?
Yeah, I would say the latter. I would say the latter. Not ready to me is not. I mean, every situation is different. Every situation could be unique. Every prosecutor is different. But not ready is not really. If you're not ready, you're not bringing it. There's a reason why they brought the grand jury. They brought the charges to the grand jury, last week and not the week before. It's because presumably the week before they weren't ready, right? So they could have always waited. So not ready to me doesn't click as a reason. Not wanting it, in my opinion, from my experience, from my knowledge of the legal system, in a case like this, if you don't get an indictment, it's because you don't want it. And that's not to say that something inappropriate happened. They most likely didn't want it because they thought the case was weak and they didn't feel comfortable putting it in front of a jury. You
Track
can.
record.
I'm sorry?
Wins and losses, right?
No, I don't.
No?
No, that's not how it works. I mean, I've heard that a lot, and I was a prosecutor for over a year. For my personal experience, I could give two shits about my win-loss record. I had cases that I wanted to lose. I had multiple cases that I thought to myself, if they make me take this to trial, I'm not interested in pursuing this as diligently as I can, and I hope I lose. I had cases that I wanted that they wouldn't let me pursue. So the win-loss, that thing is not real. Most prosecutors are ethical people who care about doing the right thing. And one of the things I loved about being a prosecutor was the right thing sometimes meant doing what was just for the defendant, for the charged. And the prosecutors might have looked at this case, in my opinion, they likely looked at this case and said, of course we can get an indictment. All we need to do is put the woman on the stand. She's going to tell her story. Boom, you have probable cause. Her story by itself is probable cause. That's an indictment. But do we want to take it to trial? Do I think this is good enough for trial? Not because we might lose, but because it doesn't sit right with me, either because I don't trust this witness or because there's other exculpatory evidence that tilts in the defendant's favor that doesn't sit well with me for whatever reason. One thing I also want to point out that I think strongly suggests that they didn't want an indictment for just reasons is that the second indictment that the grand jury did not issue was for a misdemeanor. In Texas, you don't have to bring a misdemeanor charge to the grand jury. That's for a felony. And I worked in a jurisdiction where it was the same thing. When I worked in misdemeanors, we didn't need indictments. You just file an information. You just file it with the court because the jeopardy level is different. The state rules are different for it. It appears to be the same rule in Texas. And so the question is, why would the prosecutor's office bring a case before a grand jury if it could have just went straight to charges? For public perception, to show society we're going through due process, we are allowing other people to make this decision. Look, they chose not to. It's off of our hands.
I appreciate the pushback, by the way. I want you to be upfront with this. Fatty, I know you have a question. By all means, push back when needed. This is a learning process for me. I'm obviously not an attorney. You're the expert. Fatty, what do you got here?
So, I mean, the reason why I brought it up, because you got a lot of people saying, well, yeah, he's innocent. Yeah, right now he's innocent, but he could be tried again. Now, also, does it matter because he pled the fifth throughout this grand jury?
No. Misconception. Okay. There's no testimony he's giving in the grand jury. In most cases, most of the times the defendants don't appear in the grand jury. The pleading of the fifth that you're thinking of is in his civil depositions.
Okay. So, that's all I needed to clear it up because I thought it was during that, because I thought at that point in time, well, yeah, there's still going to be some stuff come out in the civil cases that weren't brought up in the proceedings there with the grand jury that they go, hold on, we didn't have this. Well, now that we have this, we can do this again.
And that's absolutely true. And because he's no longer waiving he's no longer pleading the fifth. He's now waiving the fifth. You're right. He could conceivably say something in a deposition that they will use to try to issue an indictment again. The odds of that are incredibly low. He's being coached in these depositions. He has an attorney telling him what he can and cannot answer. And sometimes he might actually assert his fifth randomly in a deposition if he thinks it's applicable.
So I have two more questions, and then I want to move into something that you tweeted about today, and I actually have a video to show the audience. Real quick, a lot of people have the misunderstanding that the lack of an indictment is the equivalent of a not guilty. Can you give a little bit of maybe response to that and what it actually means and how we should look at it moving forward?
Yeah, it's such a complicated issue because you're talking about, so first of all, the standard of proof at a grand jury is probable cause. It's a very low standard. Probable cause is what police officers need to do to arrest you. So think about it. If you're walking down the street and you walk by a police officer and you smell like marijuana and your eyes are bloodshot and he can smell it on you, are you getting arrested in a jurisdiction where marijuana is legal? You're probably thinking he's going to arrest me. That's what probable cause is. So it's a low standard. And at the criminal level, at a jury, it's beyond a reasonable doubt, which is a very high standard. It's, there's a lot of different ways people like to frame it, but you can really just think of it as almost certainty. Not certainty, but the skepticism of not being certain is unreasonable, almost in a way. So people hear these different standards and think, well, if you can't even get a grand jury indictment, then you're definitely not guilty in a criminal case. And if you're not guilty, you're innocent. And none of those things are actually true. First of all, there's no question that you can have a case as a prosecutor that you don't like. And so when you bring it to the grand jury, you maybe show them some evidence to suggest to them or to nudge them along of, this ain't it. This is not probable cause. Don't issue an indictment. Whereas a different prosecutor could have taken that same case, gotten an indictment, and then once you're in trial, frankly, it's a fucking crapshoot. It's a crapshoot. Juries are unpredictable. I just saw a tweet a few hours ago where someone said something like, actually, experienced lawyers do know what juries are going to. Listen, I'm pretty confident in my experience. I clerked in federal court for a year. I've worked in civil cases. I've worked in criminal cases. I haven't done jury trial. I've done trials. I've worked with people that have done jury trials. I worked with judges that have done jury trials. Juries are outrageous. You never know what they're going to do, because ask yourself, this is a Browns podcast. Guys, would it surprise you to find 12 people who will say they think Baker Mayfield is a Hall of Fame quarterback?
No, actually.
Would it surprise you to find 12 people who think Baker Mayfield is not worthy of being an Arena League quarterback?
Yes.
They're probably out there, right?
Twitter.
What was that?
Go to Twitter Spaces. They'll let you know.
Right. So if we agree that the view of Baker Mayfield, when we've all seen him, we've got tons of tape on him, we're so split on that. You think you're going to know what 12 people in a complex issue like this are going to decide on? You have no idea.
All right. So one more question, and then I want to play the video that we're going to talk about that you were discussing today online.
I got one too before you play the video.
All right. So real quick before Jerry goes, watching the press conference, I felt like there was kind of two sides being played. One was I can't talk about an ongoing investigation, and we didn't get indicted, so there's nothing to talk about. Nothing happened. We're moving on. Which is it? And why? Should we give any credibility to the I can't talk about an ongoing investigation when we're also saying we're moving on because there's nothing here to look at?
Yeah, so that was a weird answer to me. What I took, at first I was very skeptical of that answer because of the fact that the grand jury indictments didn't issue. And his attorney has stated publicly, they're over, even though, like we discussed, they're never actually over. But then I thought about it and I was thinking, well, investigation, technically speaking, in a way, with these civil cases pending, he's in discovery. Discovery is a form of investigation. I mean, if you want to get literal about it, it is parties exchanging information. He's doing these depositions where he's just consistently giving testimony, consistently getting answers. What is that process? It's an investigative process for the other attorney. And so I can see what he's saying is that I don't want to answer any questions while I have ongoing discovery going, because I could make a stupid statement and muddy the issues. And he's probably not wrong about that.
So Norman here saying the ongoing investigation, are they referring to the civil trial, not the criminal?
So that's what's important, is that the way he framed it in his press conference, it sounded like he was trying to refer to it as criminal, because that's how you usually refer to, like, usually when you're talking about civil trials, the defendant will say, I'm ongoing litigation, or I'm in the middle of a lawsuit. I can't comment. Investigation is usually very specific to the criminal. And so I think maybe Deshaun Watson was sort of like parroting an old talking point maybe that his attorney had told him, but I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he's nervous. He's in a press conference. He's really just trying to express shit is going on right now. I can't speak as freely as I want to. And that's accurate. It's fair.
All right. Fatty, I know you have a question for Blake, so go ahead. I'm working on the tweet that we were sent on Twitter.
Okay. So as the profession that you're in, all right, you see a whole bunch of other stuff. Was this a huge gamble for the Browns to go after this guy, not knowing they did their due diligence, but down the road, not knowing what's going to happen?
So from what I know, from the information I have, I'm just some jabroni who's out in the public reading articles. I didn't do the investigation the Browns did, right? But
Yeah.
let's presume the Browns did do $1 billion company worth investigation, because that's what they are. Let's assume their investigation was thorough, and let's believe them when they say they looked at the investigation and determined he fits within our standard of conduct, right? Our conduct of our players. If that's what happened, then I don't think they should feel uncomfortable. Again, this is not a moral issue. I'm just talking about practically from a team issue. I don't think they should feel comfortable moving forward with the hopes that Deshaun Watson can help them, substantially over the course of the next 5 years. It sounds like all they need to really be concerned about from a football standpoint is the NFL suspension. And, that's sort of a crapshoot. We don't know how that's going to land, but it would not surprise me based on because listen, I think we might have talked about this off air. Maybe I mentioned it here. We all know there's sketchy people in the NFL. There's a lot of sketchy people in the NFL. And I mean, you don't think general managers and head coaches know the kind of people that they sometimes have on their team and the kind of things that these people are sometimes doing? I think it wouldn't surprise me if they investigated Deshaun Watson, determined, yeah, this guy's done some unintelligent things. He's done some reckless things, whether it's like flying women out for massages, etc. But they probably thought to themselves, there's about 4 other guys on this team that I know do that. So if I don't trade for Deshaun Watson for that, what am I supposed to do with these other guys? I'm guessing that might have been what happened.
So Craig brought something up to me from Twitter, and I hope I clicked the right one because I don't have my glasses on. He completely forgot that. Nope. That's it. That's not it. He actually put it in one of our guys, B Fanjoy, chimed in and asked, there was like 18 other massage therapists that like are in favor of now he's back. You can click on it. I clicked on the wrong one. There it is.
Yeah, I see.
Okay. I clicked on the wrong one.
I hate this argument.
Okay.
I hate this argument. I've talked about this before, so if anybody has heard me make this analogy, I apologize. It's repetitive, but the analogy works. Craig, if you come to my house and you assault me while we're watching a Browns game, and then you leave, is it going to do anything for you to have 18 friends say, Craig comes to my house and watches Browns games all the time, he's never hit me? No. I mean, I'm not making an argument that you're always assaulting people every time you watch Browns games or anything like that. I'm simply saying that in my experience, you did this to me. And presumably Deshaun Watson, I mean, how unbelievable would it be if every time Deshaun Watson got a massage, he engaged in that would be sex. That would be so strange. I mean, how is that possible? Of course, I would assume.
Should we ask Robert Kraft?
Maybe I'm being naive making that assumption. But my point is, it doesn't surprise me that sometimes he engages in massages and doesn't try to have sex with them. That seems like it would be normal. What I did have said earlier, which is what would be amazing evidence for him, is if he had a massage therapist who said, actually, one time I was massaging him and he asked me if I could, do something inappropriate sexually. And I said, no, I don't do that sort of thing. And he said, I apologize. I don't want to be disrespectful. Whatever you want, whatever you feel comfortable with, I'm sorry. And then we moved on. If he had a woman say that, that's amazing. Because now he has proof that goes to the key issue, which is, does Deshaun Watson know how to take no for an answer? That's the issue.
All right. So, Fatty, do you have any other questions before we play our video and get into?
Just one more, and
Sure.
then I'm done with the video. Down the road, what are the Browns looking at with this? Is there good? Obviously, we got the civil cases. How long is this going to pan out for Browns and Browns fans? I mean, is it going to be years? Is it going to be months?
It totally depends on if Watson settles and when he settles. I think he'll almost definitely settle because almost all lawsuits do. But when is he going to settle? He could settle tomorrow. He could settle in 6 months. He could settle in a year. He could settle the day of trial. He could settle in the middle of trial. He could settle while the jury is deliberating. You can always settle. It just depends on when he's going to settle. If I had, and frankly, me guessing when he's going to settle is just that. It's a total guess.
Okay.
It's a guess.
But piggyback that one. He has been claiming his innocence ever since it started. Like, he wants to clear his name.
Yeah.
Completely. That's what he's saying.
That's what he says.
I understand. I understand that's what he says, but is he, I mean, I'm not, if it was me personally and I want to completely clear my name, I'll go through everything I got to go through to clear my name that I didn't do this.
I disagree. Not if you're in that, not if, it's easy to say that now, but what if?
I'm saying me personally.
I know it's easy for you to say that now, but what if you and I, what if I'm your lawyer, okay? And you come to me and you say, Blake, this woman that I work with, that I'm sometimes alone with in the break room, she's accusing me of sexual assault. And I didn't do it. I swear. And I believe you. And I'm like, well, what evidence does she have? And you show, well, yeah, I mean, like, we might have, I might have sent her a couple inappropriate text messages, but that's just our humor. And like, I would say, and you showed me these other bad facts, like, yeah, maybe I drove an hour to her house one day to go see her, even though I'd only met her once. Like, okay, I would say to you, Jared, you better start thinking about how much you're willing to settle, because you can say you don't want to settle and you're not going to do anything. But here's what the deal is. I'm going to tell you, Jared, okay, if you're going to take that position, just know that if we go to trial, you could lose. Straight up. You could lose. And it's easy to say right now when you're not on, that's not in jeopardy to say, no. But when someone who knows the facts and knows the legal system tells you, you are taking a risk. You're always taking a risk. You have to ask yourself, that's a real chance. And how much do I want to pay to avoid risk?
Okay.
All right, so we're going to move on, and then we're going to talk about this next segment. I'm going to play a video for you guys, and there was actually some leaked deposition video. This is not a comprehensive video, obviously, of all of the deposition. Some of the video was leaked, and it was chopped up into it was clearly edited, like there's different segments that they kind of pushed together. They may or may not have cherry-picked these segments, might have just been the most interesting. They may have an agenda. Who knows? But we're going to look at it objectively. And I'm going to play it for you, and then we're going to discuss it. Like, what can we take away from it? What can we not take away from it? What assumptions can we make? What can't we assume? Things like that. So I am going to go ahead and do that. We'll play the video. We'll talk about it, and then we'll open up the comment section for kind of an Ask Us Anything type thing. So hold on to your questions. Don't forget them. We're going to go through this. Here's the video.
On Instagram.
So you think you saw a story that involved her?
Definitely possible.
Definitely possible. Did you find her attractive?
That wasn't my intention, sir.
I didn't ask you what your intentions were.
I can't answer that. I have a girlfriend, so that wasn't my intention, sir.
Okay, so you can't answer that because you have a girlfriend.
Because that's not what I was looking for.
What did you want from her?
Just a massage.
Was she a massage therapist?
Yes, sir.
Licensed?
I'm not sure, sir.
Trained?
I'm not sure, sir.
Schooled?
I'm not sure, sir.
All right, so real quick, I want to get your general reaction, but I have one primary question before we move on to just your general response to this. What in the world is the importance of, is she trained? Is she certified? Is she schooled?
I mean, forget about what's the importance. That's that's a standing ovation, beautifully way of framing his questions. I mean, what he's trying to do here is he's trying to show he is, and this is why this video was so annoying to me. It's so, the defense theory is so bad here. Their presentation of their case is so bad here because Deshaun Watson, on the one hand, is trying to present, it's really more of his attorney's fault, frankly. They're trying to present a theory of the case of, I don't care about attractiveness. I don't want to talk about attractiveness. I have a girlfriend, right? And also, he said, they asked him what his intention was, to get a massage. So he has put himself into a box of massage is on my mind. Attractiveness is so far off my mind, I won't even answer it because I have a girlfriend, right? That's the box I'm in. Okay,
is
Deshaun,
that a good answer?
It's a fine answer until you are forced to answer this follow-up question, which is, okay, Deshaun, so you're only interested in massage. You don't care about looks. You don't care about any of that. You just want a massage. What do you know about these masseuses? Are they licensed? What's their experience like? Are they any good? I have no idea. I don't know. You are, guys, if you two are actually like, you're like, my back is killing me. I just want a massage. I'll let a 500-pound man do it if they want. What are you doing?
Go to the massage parlor.
But are you going on Google? Are you Googling one?
Yeah.
Are you looking at reviews? Or
Yeah.
let me ask you this. Are you going to Instagram and are you going, my back is killing me. I don't care who does it. All I care about is good quality. Let me go on Instagram and find a beautiful woman. Is that what you're doing? It's completely I see comments that are throwing me off because they're not relevant to what I'm saying. Here's my issue. Here's what I don't understand why he didn't do. He didn't need to go so extreme either way. He could have given the answer that was most plausible and consistent with innocence. He could have said, yeah, I go on Instagram for massages because I like massages, but yeah, I like it to have it by pretty girls because why not? That's always more fun than like a man. And what was my intention? To get a massage, but like if something happens, it happens. I have sex in a lot of crazy situations. It's whatever. He could say that, and that doesn't. That makes the theory of his case so much stronger. It makes him so much more credible. This BS about attractive. Say they're attractive. Everybody knows that you think they're attractive. Presumably they are. They're going to be on the stand. The jury's going to see them. You think a jury's going to see a beautiful woman and hear your testimony? I have a girlfriend, and they're going to believe you? They're not going to believe you. It's a bad strategy.
All right. So real quick, I see our viewer counts going up on a couple of our channels. I'm going to replay the video one more time. It's only 30 seconds. And then Blake, I just want you to give me your general overall reaction. I kind of jumped the gun on asking that question. You had retweeted it today with some explanation. You got some pushback in the comments. I know you were chatting about it all day. So I want to know what your takeaways are. What do we make of this video? Everything you think about it. So let me play it again real quick, and then I'll let you take the floor here.
I saw it on Instagram.
So you think you saw a story that involved her?
Definitely possible.
Definitely possible. Did you find her attractive?
That wasn't my intention, sir.
I didn't ask you what your intentions were.
I can't answer that. I have a girlfriend, so that wasn't my intention, sir.
Okay, so you can't answer that because you have a girlfriend.
Because that's not what I was looking for.
What did you want from her?
Just a massage.
Was she a massage therapist?
Yes, sir.
Licensed?
I'm not sure, sir.
Trained?
I'm not sure, sir.
Schooled?
I'm not sure, sir.
One thing I want to say here before I go on that little rant I just did, I want to make clear about something. And one thing that makes this case confusing and complicated is that there's so many cases that sometimes, it gets lost in the weeds how, yeah, this is for one deposition. And so it's only technically for one case and everything could be different. But here's the real problem though, is that because I see somebody here and they go, if you go, I apologize if you don't want me reading these, but this one really sticks out to me. Someone says, if you go to a gym and get a trainer, do you ask them for credentials? Here's the problem with that kind of thinking. You are you are assuming or you are acting like Deshaun Watson did this one time. This is a pattern of behavior. Deshaun Watson isn't just going to a gym and getting a workout. If you're right, if he went to one masseuse, just one, and these were the questions, I would say this is okay. It's a fine defense. The problem is Deshaun Watson's lawyer, number one, admits Deshaun Watson engaged in consensual sex with some of these women. And number two, he is repeatedly going on Instagram and DMing these women who he doesn't know. He doesn't even know if they're licensed. And he has a licensed professional massage therapist for the Houston Texans to use. So he is trying to convince us he wasn't interested in sex. I have a girlfriend, attractiveness, no. Even though, yeah, I've had sex with masseuses before. And that leaves me with the only question of, if you weren't interested in sex, then what were you interested in? A high quality massage? Then why these random women that you've never met before and you don't even know if they're any good? If you don't even know if they're any good and you're using 5, 10, 15, 20, so many women, there has to be another reason you're using them other than their qualifications. I think you're on mute, Craig.
All right,
Oh,
Fatty.
Yeah.
Man, it happens at least once a show.
Oh, it does. It does.
Fatty, what are your thoughts after hearing what Blake has to say?
I mean, I just don't want it for the Browns. Like that's my biggest thing. I'm a Browns fan. Like, I just want to watch football. And I understand, like, I'm with you. I understand there's bad guys out there. That's why I did my Fatties on Fire last week about the NFL and letting child abusers, domestic violence, all these people just keep playing football because it's okay. We're going to keep giving you another chance, while the real world, that shit doesn't happen. Like, real world, I lose my job. You lose your license to practice law. Craig loses his real estate license. Like, this
Don't tell people I'm a realtor.
I'm sorry. There ain't no if they're on Twitter.
I'm a secret agent.
But you know what I mean? Like, we lose our livelihood and these guys get another chance. And it's like, okay, well, innocent till proven guilty. Okay, I get that. Yes, he might be completely innocent of everything. Okay, fine. But really, the alarming number, 22.
I mean, I'm sorry. If people are watching that deposition, listening to his answers and seeing the way he reacts and doesn't think that he is hiding something, that doesn't think he's being deceitful in some way, all I can genuinely say to you is I do not trust your sense of judgment. To me, it is so clearly obvious that he is being deceitful in some way, and his answers itself contradict, so he necessarily is being deceitful.
All right, real quick, Blake, I don't mean to put you on the spot. Everything's okay. I know we set aside about an hour. Do you have a little bit to hang around with us and take some questions? Or okay. All right, outstanding. Here's what I'm going to do. Unless Jared and I want to interject, we open up this platform all the time. Normally we have you guys come in on the show and video chat with us. We have a special guest here, of course, Blake. He's an attorney. I'm going to open up the floor to questions in the comments. We haven't actually done this. Of course, we always take questions in the comments, but if you're on YouTube or Facebook, post your questions in the comments. And Lamar, if you're still watching, I'm going to go to yours first. Everybody else, if you want to, post questions in the comments. We'll try to get to them all. Don't get mad at us if we don't choose one, especially if there's a lot. But we're gonna answer some questions. If you're on Twitter, Fatty, you still got the Twitter opened up? Can you monitor the comments on there?
Yes, as they come in, yes. Just one quick one before we go.
Sure.
I had a friend ask me this, and I just want to ask you. This is just civil. This is just statewide. He flew these women in. Is there any chance that this could go federal?
There was, I've reviewed half of the complaints. I haven't reviewed all of them. I saw one example where he flew somebody in. He definitely didn't fly all of them in.
Okay.
That's definitely not true. I know for a fact he flew one of them. He might have actually only flown one of them. Your question was, could it be federal?
Yes.
Technically speaking, I believe so. Federal law has to do with interstate commerce and things like that. That's the only time federal can get involved, when it crosses state lines or involves an issue that's widely, a countrywide issue. The problem is that, again, this is about theory versus practice.
Okay.
These are one thing people aren't talking about, a lot of these are just misdemeanors. Some of them are felonies. There's 2 allegations at least where they claim he forced oral sex. Some of them are literally like, he grabbed my butt and I slapped him away and he grabbed it. That's a misdemeanor. And
Okay.
is the federal government going to get involved in a misdemeanor? No.
Okay.
Most likely, no.
I was just curious. One of my friends asked me because he's in the Army and anything he does that's messed up, it goes straight federal because of those laws. He's like, he goes, well, they're women from different states. How is this not federal?
Yeah, I mean, if he was flying people across state lines, but again, I think that the kind of federal statutes that would apply there would be like trafficking statutes, which is, there's going to be different elements. Again, I haven't reviewed all. I don't know all the federal laws regarding, sexual assaults, but it's just not, practically speaking, it's very, very, very unlikely.
Okay. Thank you. You're muted again.
All right, so I'm seeing Twitter comments, and I was focused on trying to screenshot those or whatever. I know you're monitoring them, Fatty. I'm not trying to take your job. Lamar had a question. I'm going to start with him.
Okay, go ahead.
Is this Lamar Jackson? Get out of here.
No. Lamar Miller. If her page says massage therapist, then wouldn't it be right to assume that she had all of those credentials? Number one, is that important? Number two, what consideration is given here?
Yeah. Yes. So again, this goes back to my point about losing context of the number of people and all that stuff. So a couple points I want to make. First, yes, if again that deposition looks bad, if they can come back with evidence that they could use during trial and say because assuming that's what happens in front of the jury, he crosses him like that, it looks bad. If the defense can come back and say, look, it says right here that she's licensed on Instagram, he's just saying he doesn't know. I agree. That looks much better. The problem though is 2 things. Number one, he's falling into the issue, and the reason why this is an issue is he is trying to say he was only interested in a massage, but he can't say what skill level they were offering, which casts doubt upon then how can you really say you were only interested in massage? You didn't know anything. You didn't know. Like, yeah, this is all about what's going to sound in front of a jury. If I'm in a jury, I'm going to be thinking, if I DM a random girl for a massage and I really only want a massage, I'm probably going to be, Craig, what did you ask me before we got on this podcast?
You ought to refresh my memory.
Yesterday or the day before, you asked me to send you something.
Oh, I said, hey, listen. No offense, but I want to make sure I'm providing the best value for my viewers. I trust and believe that you're an attorney, but could you please provide me with some sort of evidence or credentials so that I can, in good faith, tell my viewers that we're speaking with an actual attorney? No offense, just doing due diligence.
Why did you do that, Craig?
It was because of me.
It's because
we're not telling that story, Fatty.
You know why? It's because as beautiful as I'd like to think I am, Craig probably wasn't trying to sleep with me, and he genuinely just wanted to get my legal thoughts. And he's thinking, well, if I'm going to get this guy's legal thoughts, what kind of lawyer is he? What's his background? Yes, that's the same situation here. And my second part is, and this is tied into a little bit, I'm assuming people, because they have a bias and they want Deshaun Watson to be innocent, they want positive things to happen to the Browns, as I do. They continually are trying to find technicalities. Well, I mean, technically what he said is not a contradiction if you consider yes, agreed. Every single thing he said can, technically speaking, be explained by something else. That's not the point. The point is not if you're going to be technically correct. The point is, are you presenting a coherent, logical, strong defense? You don't want to get in front of a jury and say, now I know this looks bad, but technically, when Deshaun said he didn't know their qualifications, it's like you don't care about technicality. You're talking to 12 people who are listening to you and saying, do I believe this guy? It's not about technicalities.
All right, Red Leg, I see you in the comments. I'm going to get to your question after this next one. This one comes from Twitter. I screenshotted it, uploaded it. Here we go. And this is NFL Fact Checks. Apparently, most of the media and 95% of the women have no idea there are both legitimate massage therapists, and there are even more non-legitimate sex workers hiding behind the front of massage parlors. These women will be exposed as prostitutes in a money grab, consensual sex. There's a lot of assumptions. I don't know if for a fact checker, NFL fact checks, I appreciate you, but there's a lot of probably opinions in here. Do you have any thoughts on this, Blake?
Yeah. Leave that up because I want to dissect it line by line.
Yeah, sure.
First line, fine. 95%, he's saying women don't know. Okay, I guess, but whatever. Yes, there are non-legitimate sex workers. I agree that surely exists somewhere. He's not even asking. He's just literally saying these women are prostitutes. This is not an analysis. This person's just making a conclusory statement backed up by no. There's no analysis. There's no reasoning here.
All right. And bear with me here because I'm monitoring some comments here. And
by the way, wait, I do want to say one thing.
Sure.
So
let me get this down off of here. This
person, whoever it is, it has made the connection in their mind that, okay, they're prostitutes who are looking for money. So is this person who wrote this tweet, if you're listening, then are you accepting that Deshaun Watson used them for prostitution? And if so, well, then Deshaun Watson lied. If not, and you're saying Deshaun Watson was not using them for prostitution, he genuinely wanted a real massage and they just so happen to be prostitutes, then are you saying you really don't believe that Deshaun Watson tried to have sex with them, even though he admits to having sex with other people? It like twists my brain. I don't understand how people can reach these conclusions.
So, Blake, real quick, one of the viewers of our show on Twitter said, hey, I'd love to see so-and-so that's been commenting on some of your stuff today come on here and talk with you. And she just left a comment. And what would you think if we tried to bring her on the show so that instead of commenting, she could speak with you directly? Well, I don't want to put you on the spot, but are you okay with that?
I don't know who this person is, but I absolutely welcome anybody that wants to talk to me about it. Of course. Yeah. I don't know who it is, but sure. I do want to say though, before you do it, I do want to say this again. I don't know who this person is. There have been some people I've interacted with on Twitter that are, I like legitimately don't know what they're thinking. And like they are very strange and say weird things. And so
sure, this
person might say something and I might just say, I can't talk to you. I don't know what you mean. But if not, if she wants to make a reasonable argument and talk to me, I'd love to have it. Yeah.
Okay, Fatty, go ahead and go to the comments, starting with Red Leg, while I go ahead and reach out to this person.
All right. So Red Leg question, if he is found, okay, you can read it better than I can.
If he is found civilly responsible, is that, quote, as good as criminal charge in relation to guilt being established? I guess I'm confused by as good as in what sense? Are you saying for the, retribution on behalf of the plaintiffs? Are you saying as good as in terms of public opinion saying we were right, look at us? I guess the only answer I could say is technically no, because criminal charge is beyond a reasonable doubt. It's a higher burden of proof, which means that if you are found responsible civilly, there's still an argument that, yeah, you were found by a group of 12 people to more likely than not, to have committed the crime. Does that mean you certainly did it? No. If you're found guilty in a criminal case, they're basically saying we are almost certain you did it, which is higher. Yes. Yeah.
All right. Real quick. Burden of proof and the difference between criminal and civil trials. I kind of know the answer, even though I'm not an attorney, but for those watching, what is the difference between criminal and civil when it comes to the findings by the court? Like what burden of proof, what level of commitment does the court or the jury need to actually find the defendant, quote unquote, guilty?
Yeah. So yeah, it would be the jury if it's a jury trial. It would be the court if it's a bench trial. But if it's a jury trial in a civil case, it's preponderance of the evidence, which is basically simply 51%. So if you're in the jury room in a civil case, you have to ask yourself, is it more which is more likely? Which is a pretty low burden of proof. Which is why I was telling you earlier, Jared, it's always a risk. It's very little burden of proof that you have to meet, this preponderance of the evidence. A criminal case is beyond a reasonable doubt. A lot of smarter people than me have tried to explain in other ways what that means. Some people like to think it basically means that you're certain. Other people basically just say it means to have skepticism is unreasonable. It's not reasonable to think otherwise. Some people say 99%, however you want to frame it. The burden is supposed to be high. Keep in mind, juries, like I said, completely unpredictable. Some juries have found beyond a reasonable doubt in cases that are absolute garbage.
All right.
Question.
What's that? Go ahead. You want to go to the next one? I think I know which one you're going to.
Okay, so we have well, Craig chimed in and said, Blake, do you think he's innocent? Your professional opinion.
That's a tough
I would
one.
say, here's my view on that whole, is he innocent, is he guilty? That kind of simple question. My answer is, I think people don't realize it's a gray area. I think if there was a video of it, let's say there was a video of every interaction, I genuinely think even if there was a video, some people would watch the video of some of them and go innocent, and some people would watch that same video and go guilty. I actually don't think it has to do with most of them about what the facts are. I think it's about what people think is and is not okay.
All right, Craig, you want to read that one because obviously it's longer than the.
I'm going to go to Norman, and then I'm going to go back to Lamar. If the grand juries didn't find or hear any credible evidence of guilt, why do we have to think he is guilty?
Because,
well, first of all, we don't have to, right?
No, we don't have to.
Yeah, you don't have to, of course not. But also, the grand jury didn't find any evidence of guilt. That's not accurate. It's not that the grand jury necessarily, we don't know what the grand jury saw, but it's not necessarily true that the grand jury didn't find any credible evidence of guilt. What necessarily must have happened is the grand jury didn't find probable cause. So, for example, let me give you a situation where a grand jury could find credible evidence of guilt, but not find probable cause, okay? Let's say the woman comes up, testifies, tells her story, cries, and says, you know, he put his hand on me and I slapped it away, and then he grabbed my breast and I said no, and blah, blah, okay? You just have, right there, that is credible evidence of guilt. But let's say the woman leaves the room and the prosecutor gives them all a text message and say, here is a text message between this woman and Deshaun Watson next week. Deshaun Watson texts her and say, can we do a massage again? And she says, absolutely, would love to. Now the grand jury says, okay, we've heard credible evidence of guilt, but now we don't believe this woman, no probable cause. Now, in that situation, is it possible that that woman's story is still true? Yes, because what if she experiences the situation? This is why I say it's a gray area. She experiences the situation. She's uncomfortable. He technically assaults her. It's terrible. She leaves. She's mad about it. A couple of days go by and she thinks, well, my business is struggling. If he reaches back out again, he's got a lot of money. Maybe he'll use me as a regular. And like, maybe this is just something I have to deal with to keep my business going, to make some more money. I could always use a contact. Maybe he'll introduce me to his teammates. Maybe this will make my business thriving. Boom, gets a text message. Hey, can we do a massage? And against her better judgment, she's like, okay, yeah, great, let's do it.
You muted yourself again.
I caught it. I was uploading another photo. Lamar, I'm coming to you, but real quick, I'm going to pull another tweet up on screen. I invited Renee to come on the show. She prefers if we were to schedule something, but that's okay because we have her tweet. She's watching the show, and I'm going to go ahead and display it, Blake, so that you can address this. All right, so here we go. Renee, thank you. I believe as too many small clips are emerging, there is never enough to opine anything exclusive of negative. I've seen all that has been submitted to the court. The cases are, in my opinion, quite weak. I also know Watson. I'm going to leave this up so that for your reference, I'm not trying to block your face here, Blake, but what do you think about this comment? And you're muted.
It happened to me now.
Happened to you now.
There is never enough to opine anything exclusive of. I don't know what that sentence means. I'm sorry. The next one, I've seen all that has been submitted to the court. I don't know if we can say that's true. I'm assuming she means civil court and not the grand juries. I don't know if the discovery has been submitted to the court. I don't really know what to respond to that. I don't really.
So it sounds like she's saying that there's too many small clips. We're not getting a big enough picture view of everything. We're not examining a release of information that's comprehensive, right? We're only seeing cherry picked clips is I think what she's referring to. I can't speak for her, obviously.
Yeah.
With that being said, the other thing that I think she's mentioning is she claims she's basically said, hey, anything that's been released, I've read it. I know Watson. It sounds like she's certainly in defense of Watson, if I'm reading this correctly. But it's interesting. And I sent her a link, and I certainly understand that she prefers to do something scheduled. Not everybody's in a position to just hop on a video. But I would be interested in learning more, Renee, about what you have to say. All right, so I suppose we can move on to that. From that, at least for now, I'm going to go to I'm going to go to Lamar here again. And doesn't the fishy circumstances give pause from Busby tweet telling people to come forward and him wanting a trade to him being friends with the owner to him repping all 22 victims? Plus all their stories being similar is sketchy to me. Now, this is interesting. And Lamar, thank you for chiming in. Thank you for tuning into the show. We appreciate you coming on and asking some questions. We love that. For me personally, Blake, and I don't know, there's a couple schools of thought. It's almost like a conspiracy theory either way is how like people are viewing it. But like for me, like, I'm of the where there's smoke, there's fire camp. Like, how can 22 women be coordinating this lie? I understand that you can connect certain dots and say, well, it's convenient that that he's neighbors, and it's convenient that, all 22 are using the same attorney, or most of them are using the same attorney, or, things like that. What do you have to say to this?
Okay, so can you leave that up? Would you mind?
Yeah, I'm sorry. There we go.
So I understand why some people have these instant reactions where like, that seems fishy. I'll break each point down one by one about why I don't think it's that fishy. First, Busby's tweet telling to come forward. In a couple weeks, I'm going to have my own private practice in Richmond, Virginia. If I have a woman come to me and say a member of the Washington Commanders DM'd me and sexually assaulted me, I am going to do what Tony Busby did, because what Tony Busby is doing is sound decision making. He made the determination that the circumstances of the women that came forward to him demonstrated a potential pattern of behavior, and he's thinking, where can I find other women who are maybe victims of this pattern of behavior? So he is saying, if you are involved in anything like this, come to me. That's not abnormal. That's not strange. He's basically saying, I'm going to be the guy who's going to handle cases like this. Number two, about the owner. Sorry, you took the tweet down. Something about maybe the owner living near Busby or something. Friends with the owner. Tony Busby is a successful public figure in Houston, Texas. The owner, I'm assuming he's wealthy as well. The Houston Texans owner is a wealthy, successful public figure in Houston, Texas. It would not surprise me at all that they're friendly. And second of all, this all happened. This Deshaun Watson thing, you guys, you don't need me to tell you this. You guys are just as big a football fans as I did. How much did this situation screw the Texans? They had to pay Deshaun Watson for a year. He had to sit on the sideline. They had to deal with the media circus. They had to wait an extra year to get any picks for him, and his value probably went down. Maybe they could have gotten 3 firsts and 4 seconds if none of this had happened. So this was not in the interests of the Houston Texans. And then, sorry, what was the last point of the tweet?
The Texans, to piggyback on your point, they actually it was like they just took a loss for a year. The only thing they gained was a year of experience for Davis Mills. That was the only gain of the Houston Texans.
Terrible for them. Imagine if this happened to the Browns. Imagine if Baker Mayfield was thriving, demands a trade, and we're like, hey, guys, it sucks you got to get out of here, but we can get a lot for him. And then these allegations come out. We would be like, fuck us. We're so screwed. This is terrible for us. Oh, and then this last part of this tweet, this is why I was smirking a little bit, because it just shows the way people think and how people's biases can sort of expose themselves. All their stories being similar is sketchy. It's only sketchy if you don't believe them. If you believe them, it actually is incredible evidence for them. You have 22 women saying, he DM'd me. I've never met him before. He invites me to his house. It's like, that is called repetitive actions. That is not, that if they're telling the truth, not only is it not sketchy, it actually bolsters their credibility because it's saying this is common.
All right. So there we go. And if we missed a question, we apologize. We normally go for about an hour. Sometimes we run a few minutes over. Tonight, we're quite a bit over, and I'd love to keep this going all night. And realistically, Blake, anytime anything legal comes up, or even if you just want to chat, we'd be happy to have you on anytime. And we appreciate you coming on the show so much and answering our questions, being objective, lending us your experience and insight as an attorney into this case. We really appreciate you. So thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. It was awesome. I had a blast.
Absolutely. And
round.
What's that?
One more segment. You still got to stick around for one more segment.
One more segment. And yep. And Norman here comes on the show. Maybe one of these nights. We go live every Tuesday at 8, especially, if you're a new viewer. We go live every Tuesday at 8. We post a link in the comments. You can come in and talk with us, just like we're talking with Blake. Tonight, Blake was our special guest, so we kind of closed that down and only went through comments. So, feel free to join us in the future. And Blake, even on just a normal regular Tuesday night, you're bored and you're warming up for Twitter Spaces, go ahead and log on and just pop in the show anytime you want. And you and Norman can have a conversation here. He says, I disagree. If, let's say, they trash his trade value and then we have no takers, he'd have no leverage with the Texans owners. We'll make this our last parting thought, and then we'll get to our last segment, Fatty's on Fire. What do you think, Blake?
But by going through that logic, what he's basically saying is, but what's going to happen with that is you might lose Deshaun Watson. He's presuming that they want to tank his value, so their leverage would be you have to play for us, right? But he might get suspended now for multiple years. He already had to sit out a year. Was he on the exempt list last year? I think he was, right?
No, I think he was a healthy scratch, but don't quote me on that. I think he was a healthy scratch.
If one of you could look that up, I'd appreciate it, because I thought maybe he was on the exempt list. But either way, he's going to get suspended for a long period of time. I mean, the Browns now have him. Do we feel like we have leverage for him to play? It's kind of, his playing status is very sketchy. We're very concerned about it. So if this was sort of a grand scheme by the Texans to get him to rescind his trade demand so he would have to play, it's a very three-dimensional chess piece that is not very certain to work out. It's a big risk.
All right, so just a quick Google. Again, don't hold me to it, but I'm relatively confident he was not on the exempt list. There was articles in October and November questioning why he was not. Doing a quick Google. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and close out there. Blake, you're welcome anytime. We appreciate you joining the show. Stick around for a minute. We are going to go to one of our fan favorite segments. It is Fatty's on Fire. Here we go.
This has probably been one of the best shows we've done in a while, and I want to thank Blake for coming on with us because, the insight, the actual conversation, because that's what this show is about, is a conversation. And I'm going to go on a lighter side. Normally I kind of get upset, start throwing shade at the NFL or Baker or whoever I want. Twitter Spaces, blah, 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 blah. Something, Fatty is not on fire except for Girl Scout cookies. And I said on Legal Ham tonight, Girl Scout cookies, you guys need to step up your game a little bit. 15 cookies in one package is not enough. We need a family-size package here, all right? I'm fat. I want cookies. I don't want to get through 15 cookies and go, I don't have any more. That means I got to get up and get more cookies. I don't want to do that, all right? So, Girl Scouts, if you guys can please get a fatty-sized tag-alongs and send it my way, I would love it because those are the best. And here's your Fatties on Fire. You muted yourself again.
Thank you for joining the Dawgs Table. I mute myself sometimes. All right. So we appreciate everybody for joining in. This conversation will surely... What? There we go. There's Blake. Blake, we appreciate you coming in. We are surely going to continue this conversation through the off season. It's not over anytime soon. Again, Blake, you're welcome anytime. You can jump in as a special guest anytime you'd like, or you can simply join in with the rest of the fans. We'd certainly appreciate any support you may offer or any conversation you may offer. We had a blast with you tonight and really appreciate the information. For those of you that want to know more about what Blake thinks, maybe not just pertaining to this, but the next legal matter that comes up in sports, or the Browns, or Will Smith versus Chris Rock. I saw you talking some legal stuff in the Twitter spaces for Will Smith and Chris Rock. He has, it's everything. He's got things to say. He's worth listening to. On Twitter, if you're on Twitter, follow him at Blake Weiner Law. You'll see his handle there as his little name tag on his video there. And, it's an excellent show. Join us every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Norman, thanks for joining the show. He says, thanks, Blake. Yeah, and everybody else that joined. Every Tuesday at 8, we're on all of our social network channels, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. We are on all the Big Play social media channels, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook. We are brought to you by Labatt Blue Light, Remax Edge Realty, the JC Group. We are going to be live from the Brick House in Sebring, Ohio for day 2 of the draft. We are doing a draft special, so we'll have more announcements about that coming up soon. But if you're in Northeastern Ohio, day 2 of the draft, which is the Browns day 1, you can come hang out with us live. We can live react. We'll be streaming live from one of the best bars and restaurants in Northeast Ohio, and it is going to be a blast. So that'll be fun too. Let us know what you think in the comments of the show if you're watching the replay. We'll be happy to try to address anything that you might want to know. And, Blake, again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you guys so much. I had a blast. You guys are great.
Absolutely. Hang on for just a minute once we end the show. This is the end. Until next time, go Browns.
Go Browns.
Go Brownies.